Mr. Wald, I do want to follow up on a couple of things with you and Mr. Harrison and also Mr. Spicer. Under the Presidential Powers Act, we could have a special access request, correct, to the archivist to find out what assent was actually given by Joe Biden on the auto pen. Is that your understanding?
If they kept records,
right.
Yes.
Right. Well, I think that will be something we will be pursuing. Professor Harrison, I wanted to ask you, sort of on the Article 1 branch's role, and I think I understand your concern when you say the president could do something. You're dealing with sort of a separation of powers issue is sort of what I'm reading into that. So the Article 1 branch can impeach for high crimes and misdemeanors. Should the Constitution be amended, in your view, to deal with this incapacitation? So impeachment would be a vehicle beyond just the 25th Amendment, but impeachment would be a vehicle to deal with these issues.
Senator, there's a long-standing question about whether impeachment is appropriate for inability. There's been questions right at the beginning of the Republic about a couple of judges who were in very poor shape. Not that they'd committed crimes; they were impeached and removed, and there were doubts as to whether impeachment was appropriate for that because there was their problem was age and inability. So you're absolutely right that there's a doubt right now whether the impeachment process, and it goes back a long, long way, whether the impeachment process is a way of dealing with inability as opposed to misconduct. It's clearly primarily directed at misconduct, and I think that if members of Congress are thinking about an additional constitutional amendment, and maybe they should be, they should think both about adapting the impeachment process to inability, which, as I say, right now it's not clear it's properly used in those situations, or creating yet some other political process to deal with presidential inability if lawmakers think that the political process that's in Sections 3 and 4 of the 25th Amendment is inadequate. The last thing I'll say, just as a policy matter, and this is not speaking on the legal question, I do think it's important that any decision about presidential inability remain something that's decided by politically accountable people, that it's treated as a political decision. It can't just be a technocratic decision.
Mr. Spicer, you've criticized the corporate media and legacy media folks for sort of lying down here or being complicit because of their, whether it's Trump derangement syndrome or whatever the reason was. Who specifically do you think gets a gold star for lying most profusely and just sort of continuing to cover this up over the years?
Sir, that would be like a photo finish. There'd be a lot that would probably right there at first place. They're all culpable. I mean, I read some of the headlines to the committee earlier, the Washington Post, CNN, NBC, where they, without evidence, to use their phrase, went after President Trump's physical and mental acuity, and yet failed to ask similar questions of the White House press office publicly. They failed to cover the stories. I don't think that there's a winner. I think they're all losers.
Thank you. And then we'll sort of wrap up here with Professor Harrison and Mr. Wald. So moving forward, we mentioned maybe possibly amending the Constitution or further exploring whether incapacitation is an impeachable, if impeachment's a remedy. What other, in your experience, what other things moving forward could be done to make sure that this scenario that we saw play out over the last 4 years never happens again?
Senator, I think the most important thing that can be done is something you're doing right now, which is draw public attention to this problem, and so give presidents an incentive to take steps that will reassure the people that they are sound and able to perform their functions.
Mr. Wald.
I would agree with the professor and just add that there should be some accountability for the staffers and the officers of the United States who acted to conceal and to cover up the president's incapacity from the American people. One other issue that's tied up in sort of this bundle of incapacity, impeachment, is also succession, and that's something so many have written about extensively over the years. We are very blessed that we have never had a double vacancy with the president and the vice president, either because of terror attack or misconduct. That's something that legal scholars have said for many decades, that Congress really has to work on that. And I would add, yes, in fact, that's something you all should take up with some seriousness.
May I say spontaneously, yes, please?
Okay. Well, I want to thank the witnesses for your testimony here today. Written questions for them may be submitted for the record until June 26th at 5 p.m. And with that, this hearing is adjourned. Thank you.